Good morning. Selamat pagi, Bapak, Ibu, and all participants to this very important conference. I'd like to start by congratulating the Association of Indonesian Labor Law Lecturers and Practitioners, P3Hki, for organizing this very important and timely national conference on labor law with the topic of technological revolution and employment. A very, very pertinent topic for the day and age we're in and has been for a very long time. I would like to just say that at the very start, I'm really honored that you have asked the ILO to speak, but I'm also very honored with the co-speakers at this event speaking alongside me this morning. I understand that Mr. Abednego Panchaputra Tarigan, the Deputy 2 of the Presidential Staff Office for Human Development, so very important portfolio, will be here to talk about government policies to balance technological utilization and labor absorption in Indonesia. And also Pa Edmund Makarim, who is from the Faculty of Law of the University of Indonesia, who will be talking about enhancing Indonesian workforce competencies, overcoming challenges in technological adoption. So I think you're in good hands, excellent speakers, and again, thank you so much for inviting the ILO. Let me just start by saying something that is very important to this conversation as it pertains to the ILO. The ILO is over 100 years old, actually 105 counting. And we've been through a lot of periods in history when technological changes have actually had an impact on the world of work, on the welfare of workers, on industry, on the prospects for growth, but also on the prospects for displacement. If we go back in the Industrial Revolution, the early 1900s, everyone was fearful, oh goodness, the assembly line process will be replaced by something else. So the assembly line will actually replace manual labor in many ways. And then in the 50s and 60s, the mainframe computer actually rose a lot of fears as well, saying, oh, computers are going to remove the need for workers in those sectors. And here we are today, looking at also an even faster pace growth in technology. Everyone is talking about artificial intelligence, digitalization, technological revolution, as you have called it, as one of the headlines of this, or focus of this conference. It is a revolution, but it's one that we can actually predict. And we can work towards making this revolution a positive one, rather than one that is considered a glass half empty. And so my talk is going to be about very much discussing those elements of seeing how can we optimize, knowing that technology is here, we can't change that. In fact, how can we actually seize the opportunity that technology brings, artificial intelligence in particular, and how that can actually work for the benefit of workers, women, men, those with disabilities, as well as for industry, for GDP growth, for the economies, and for the communities. And in terms of learning, lifelong learning, and what is it that we need to do to make that happen? I know I'm in the presence of some very esteemed labor lawyers, and I think apart from the fact that the workforce will need to adjust and we need to put in place practices and policies to help them adjust, especially the skills portfolio, we do also very much need to look at the regulatory, legislative arena. Labor laws are critical in terms of ensuring that decent work remains during this transformation period, during this technological revolution. How can labor laws be adaptable? And they have been. Again, a 105-year-old organization, ILO, we've been setting standards on labor laws and labor standards for over 105 years. And we have a huge army of standards, a total of 189 standards, no, 190 actually at this point in time, standards over the years. And they are a testament to the fact that the labor market is dynamic. And not only technological changes, but other factors as well do come in And it's very important for the key labor market actors, the workers, the employers, and government, to be able to remain at the forefront of discussing, deliberating, strategizing, planning, and implementing those kinds of standards so that everyone benefits equally. Today I will cover 3 dimensions. The first is the burning question on what is the impact of artificial intelligence on job quantity. The second, on job quality. And also the third, on how we can move forward. So those are the 3 elements I will cover. Let me start with what all the headlines seem to be saying, which is this renewed fear that all forms and lots of jobs will be displaced. So the quantity of jobs will reduce is what is being implied. Some of the low-skilled occupations, for example, will be those, or menial tasks, administrative tasks, those things will be displaced. But let me tell you something. ILO research around the world has actually found that it's not really the quantity that's going to diminish. There will be some losses, of course, and we're projecting about 2.3% of job losses associated with artificial intelligence. But what we're actually finding is that a larger percentage, 13% of jobs, will actually be changed or transformed. So it's not a job loss, it's a job transformation. And that's where we need to put our energies and put the right legislative, regulatory frameworks in place so that that displacement is a transformation, not a loss. So we really do need to bring up the skills aspect going forward. But beyond these aggregate figures, our same research digs deeper and shows that jobs that are more at risk of automation are those clerical jobs, as I just mentioned. And maybe it's okay for those clerical jobs to be transformed. Maybe it is okay for there to be career progression and other forms of work introduced for the women and men. This brings in a very important gender dimension as well, because clerical jobs tend to be predominantly female oriented. So policymakers, legislators need to pay particular attention to ensure that women, even if that percentage is 2.3%, actually encapsulates a lot more women in that category than men. And so proactive measures must be taken to make sure that they are skilled and equipped. And this can actually be quite a wonderful opportunity for women to be more meaningful and more productive parts of the labor market, something that has been kind of restricted for many of them for cultural reasons, for other social reasons, and also for their care responsibilities. The use of technology can be used certainly to harness and use their potential. I'd like to flag a few issues that legislators in particular should be looking out for when trying to maneuver this transition, technological transition. One is on the opportunities of creating a safer, better safety and health practices, particularly in certain sectors that were considered very dangerous. We have fantastic examples of how machines have actually been able to predict dangers in certain working environments, for example, mining, where workers can actually not necessarily do that dangerous work or adapt their working methods so that they are much safer and you have less workplace accidents. Another is the issue of wages, because the nature of work changes from perhaps a piece rate system to a different form of wage system, especially if you are an operator in what we call the platform economy. So this is another area to see how appropriate wage setting mechanisms and wages can be established for those that are impacted or are actually working highly using AI. The third is on working conditions. Assumption is because you are not doing a 9-to-5 job, you're not coming to an office, you're not going to an industrial facility, you might be working different hours, you might be using your own assets and equipment to be able to execute your work. These are all aspects that impact also the working conditions. So it's very important to look very deeply at also how working conditions can be impacted for women and men as a result of the greater utilization of artificial intelligence. And then one last point to look out for, which is on discrimination. We have to be very much aware that we don't promote discrimination against particular cultural groups, social groups, regional groups, women, you name it, because a lot of times AI is based on algorithms and the amount of data that goes in. And there have been unfortunate instances of or risks of algorithmic hiring practices, for example, that would automatically discriminate against certain groups. So I think if we are aware of those practices, it's important to put in place measures to try to avoid them. Let me end by giving a few points, perhaps also in terms of Indonesia. Indonesia is very much at the forefront of this technological revolution of AI adoption. AI adoption amongst the youth in particular is quite high. And we are watching that space, but not just watching it, we are actively working in that space. As part of the International Labor Organization Indonesia office, we have since June already this year convened now two forums focused on AI and its impact on the world of work. One general one on the impact on Indonesia's labor market, and then one recently on its impact on micro, small, medium enterprises, which constitute close to 99% of the labor market, and where many women and informal sector workers operate across many sectors. Our next session, a deep dive, again, we're doing these as deep dives, is going to focus on a sector that employs and accounts for a huge part of the economy, which is the agriculture sector. So you are all, or many of you are invited, of course, to attend and watch that. It's also going to be online. So we are going to continue every 2-3 months, deep diving, bringing the right actors in to have that conversation as to what policy measures, what to watch out for, how to navigate these changes that are happening in real time, real fast, for even a country like Indonesia. But stepping forward also globally, the ILO is working to come up with a standard, international standard. It's groundbreaking. It's much awaited on the platform economy. And this will start early next year in 2025 and hope to conclude the following year, so that there's a global set standard on how one can protect workers and navigate the platform economy in terms of ensuring decent work exists and productivity also is enhanced at the same time. So watch that space, very important. But I must say Indonesia, again, is a bit ahead of the curve. They already started to work on a regulation on platform economy workers, particularly the transportation sector workers. And I would applaud that effort. It's been an inclusive effort. They've brought in the voices of workers and employers into that conversation, as well as other experts. This is very, very important. And we hope that not only will they come up with a regulation that will mirror what the international standard will be, but also expand beyond the transport sector to other sectors that are very much also part of the platform economy, such as care work sector. Let me end by saying that the very most fundamental point that I've made and I'd like to make is the need for social dialogue. It is essential that this is not done by either labor experts like yourself or government regulators by themselves or industry by itself, private sector, or workers by themselves. This has got to be done by social dialogue between, at minimum, the three entities: representatives of the government, workers, and employers, to figure out how one can regulate best, how we can navigate best, how we can prepare the workforce for the kind of skills and lifelong learning they need to transition, so that this transition, this fast-paced transition, technological one, is one that is considered just and is equally believed, not just considered, equally believed to be just transition for all workers, women and men, from all parts of Indonesia and across the globe. Thank you very much again for inviting the ILO for this very important topic. And we look forward to continuing to work and engage with you going forward. Terima kasih.